It's an interesting thing to be called influential. It's most definitely an honor. What does influence mean? Development or behavior of someone, something, to have an effect. That's not only an honor, responsibility. How we use that matters. Who and what we stand up for and what we sent about. What we monetize versus what we actually live.
The contract has finally been unsealed, and it's a bombshell. This document could completely change the game for Blake Lively. Originally drafted in May 2023, this actor agreement became official when Blake signed her 17-point deal that November. Even though the specific document itself wasn't signed, that 17-point agreement incorporated every clause within it, making all of it legally enforceable. Both parties have already acknowledged this in open court. Wayfarer has now provided the contract to the judge, and with that, everything shifts. Under the terms of this agreement, Blake Lively cannot sue Justin Baldoni, Wayfarer, or anyone involved. She agreed to handle disputes only through arbitration. While much of this contract looks standard on the surface, there are unique clauses that go far beyond the norm. For instance, it specifically required Justin Baldoni to personally discuss certain scenes with her, especially any that involved partial undress or intimate contact. These conversations weren't optional. They were mandatory under a contract and required her consent before filming those moments. So, in short, every conversation about what would appear on screen, including how scenes were choreographed, had to happen in advance. This wasn't imposed on her. It was something Blake herself requested for additional protection. Now, the question many have been asking, if this contract wasn't actually signed, does it still hold up? Surprisingly, yes, and here's why. On November 15th, 2023, Blake submitted a separate amendment document that referenced this very contract. It began with a clear statement. Reference is made to the certain agreement dated May 5th, 2023, between It Ends With Us Movie LLC and Blake Lively for the acting and related services of Blake Lively in connection with the motion picture. It went on to say that both parties wish to confirm conditions under which she would continue providing her services after production break caused by the 2023 labor strikes. The amendment also stated that these new terms would be incorporated into the original May 2023 agreement, which means she was acknowledging the validity of that first contract. In other words, by signing this amendment, Blake legally confirmed that the original contract existed, was active, and bound her to it. Interestingly, the November amendment said nothing about compensation. So, to receive her payments and bonuses, Blake had to agree to the original terms. She was paid, the project was completed, and by accepting that payment, she effectively accepted the contract, signed or not. Now, let's move into one of the most controversial parts of Blake Lively's complaint, the allegations surrounding COVID-19 safety on set. In her lawsuit, Blake accused the production of failing to enforce COVID protocols, and even claimed she and her infant son caught the virus due to their negligence. But this newly unsealed contract tells a very different story. The agreement actually references COVID protocols multiple times, and it even includes an attached safety acknowledgement form. According to this section, Blake was required to review and sign the production's official COVID safety protocols and regulations. It explicitly states that she acknowledges and agrees that the company has provided COVID safety protocols and regulations to be followed while providing services on the motion picture. In simple terms, she was made fully aware of the safety rules, and she agreed to follow them. It also required her to make a daily health declaration before work, follow written instructions from the company, and comply with all updates to the safety policy. And the most critical part? The agreement said that repeated failure to follow these COVID regulations could be considered a breach of contract. The production company also confirmed that their safety measures were fully aligned with government guidelines and approved by SAG. So when Blake later claimed there were no COVID safety procedures in place, this clause directly contradicts that. And it doesn't stop there. In her amended complaint, she alleged that producer Justin Baldoni and his colleague failed to inform her of a COVID outbreak on set, supposedly because Wayfarer didn't have insurance coverage. She claimed another producer told her this, but provided no proof. The contract, however, clearly states that the company did have insurance. In fact, It specifically outlines that the company had the right to take out life, health, accident, and cast insurance for the artist, that is, for Blake Lively. It even specifies that if she failed to qualify for insurance at normal rates, the company could terminate the agreement, or she could pay the difference in premiums to keep it valid. So not only did the company have coverage, but Blake had agreed to cooperate with their insurance requirements, including medical examinations if needed. And here's something else most people missed according to the same insurance section. Blake was prohibited from using private jets during filming due to the coverage terms. It's unclear whether she followed that rule, but knowing Hollywood, it's easy to guess. Now, this is where the entire story flips upside down apart that could end Blake Lively's entire case before it even begins. Hidden deep in the standard conditions of her contract is a clause under legal proceedings and arbitration. And this section changes everything. It states, the parties agree that any and all disputes or controversies of any nature between them, whether or not related to the picture, shall be determined by binding arbitration. That means any issue, no matter what it's about, has to be handled privately through arbitration, not in court. According to the contract, this process must follow the official rules of JAMS, one of the top arbitration organizations in the U.S. The hearing would be held in Los Angeles before a single neutral arbitrator, someone who's either a retired judge or an attorney with at least 10 years experience in the film industry. If both parties can't agree on who that arbitrator should be, then JAMS will appoint one for them. And here's the kicker: both sides have to split the fees equally, unless the arbitrator decides otherwise. All discovery, depositions, and document requests must be pre-approved by that arbitrator. Once a decision is made, it's final. There's no appeal unless one side requests it in writing within 10 business days. But it gets even stricter. The contract says all arbitration proceedings must remain confidential. That means no public disclosure, no gossip, no media statements, and no leaks of any kind. Even the fact that arbitration is happening at all is supposed to be kept secret. So, by taking this fight public, Blake may already be in violation of that clause. Now, some might wonder if recent legal changes could help her. In 2022, a federal law called the Ending Forced Arbitration of Sexual Assault and Harassment Act was passed. It allows victims of sexual harassment or assault to bypass mandatory arbitration clauses and take their claims to court instead. But that law only applies to cases involving sexual misconduct, and only when the dispute is between an employee and their employer. Blake's contract, however, makes it crystal clear that her relationship is not with Wayfarer Studios. The entire agreement is between Blake Lively, and it ends with Us Movie LLC, the production company specifically formed for this project. Wayfarer is not a listed party in her contract at all. This distinction matters because it means that the arbitration clause still stands, and it covers everything from defamation and privacy claims to breach of contract and conspiracy allegations. So, legally speaking, Blake cannot bring these claims against Wayfarer or the movie's producers in a public court. She agreed in writing to resolve all disputes privately. That one clause alone could dismantle her entire case. So, where does this leave everything? When you look at the full picture, this unsealed contract completely changes the narrative. What was once being framed as a shocking legal fight now appears to be a case that might never even make it to open court. Blake Lively's own agreement confirms that she was fully aware of the film's protocols, from health and safety procedures to insurance coverage and arbitration. She accepted payment, received her bonuses, and acknowledged all the clauses that came with the deal. Even if a specific document wasn't signed, her later amendment and her acceptance of the money make the contract legally binding. In legal terms, her actions confirmed her consent. That means all of her claims of COVID allegations, the supposed lack of insurance, and the right to sue Wayfarer may already be nullified by the very document her team is now trying to challenge. The irony here is almost cinematic. The same contract designed to protect her also prevents her from taking the case public. By its own terms, every dispute must be handled quietly, privately, and behind closed doors. If the court upholds this arbitration clause, and it likely will, Blake Lively's lawsuit could be dismissed entirely or moved into confidential arbitration, where the outcome might never be revealed to the public. And that, right there, could explain why Wayfarer and its legal team have stayed calm and confident throughout this ordeal. They know the contract backs them. So, while the headlines are focused on drama, leaks, and allegations, this unsealed document tells a different story, one written in fine print and signed in silence. For Blake Lively, this isn't just a contract dispute. It's a career-defining moment that could reshape how Hollywood handles its biggest stars, its studios, and the agreements that bind them all together. Because in this case, the truth wasn't hidden in testimony, it was buried in the paperwork.